for. Queen's Gambit Declined is a great opening to play against the blindfolded opponent because then it's going to be a very long game and hard to keep track of everything. Actually noticing here, this is kind of annoying. Okay, so a6 I don't think is supposed to be great here, but I can't remember why off the top of my head. I'm going to play Queen c2. Actually noticing I can sort of see it in the broadcast stream. Maybe if I bring this down, that's better. There we go. Now I can't see it anymore, and I can only see the chat. Okay. So Queen c2, c5. Feels like the center is going to blow up pretty soon. I guess let's start with d takes c5, and there will probably be some well-timed rook d1. This is pretty similar to some Queen's Gambits with c5 directly instead of a6, but I think this move a6 is a waste of time compared to what knight c6 would have been. Okay, so bishop c5, and now let's go rook d1 and harass this queen a bit. But yeah, I can already tell this is going to be tough. So queen a5. His knight's not on c6 yet, so I should be able to go knight d2 without having to worry about e5 or knight b4 or d4. And now knight b3 is coming, and that should be pretty annoying for black to deal with. But maybe he can play bishop b4 here. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have done this because bishop b4 looks good. d4 feels like a big mistake. Why can't I go knight b3? I don't get it. This just seems like I'm winning all of a sudden. Maybe he was expecting me to take on d4 first and then go knight b3 because he could play bishop takes c3, but this way I'm good to go, yeah. So now I can't go knight a4 because of a check, so I start with e takes d4. That takes a clean pawn. He will have to bring the bishop. Okay, so he goes bishop b4, sure. Let's go bishop d3, seems nice and active. So h6 is a very slow move, of course, and once I castle, I should be fine. And basically just a pawn up. And if he's not careful, he can get his bishop trapped by like c5, knight a4, and a3. So some care should be taken. So he starts with knight c6. How do I want to handle this? I'm going to start with c5 to gain a tempo on the queen and hopefully trap this bishop on a3, and then go knight e4 so that he cannot take my knight on c3. Now his bishop, it's not going to be like captured. He can get it back to a5, but this position is absolutely miserable for black. And I just have to hope I can keep track of it despite not having very much time. Yeah, okay, so this bishop is hanging, should tuck back to c1, seems easy enough. But with, okay, so f5, I guess my knight has to go to d6. That seems easy enough as well. Yeah, but I'm sorry I'm going to struggle to keep track of the position when the moves are coming this quickly. Okay, bishop d7, but now after a3 and knight b7, I'm taking everything, right? So I start with a3, bishop a5, knight takes b7 comes, and I'm just taking all of his pawns. But do I even want that? Probably I do. Let's at least start with knight takes b7, and in the event of queen c7, I'm probably not going to take his bishop. I'm going to bring the knight back to d6. Yeah, so now his bishop, or hang on. This is where I'm having trouble. Is the knight already on c6? I think it is, yes. The knight is already on c6, so I can't just take the a5 bishop. I'm going to bring the knight back to d6. I think my knight is a better piece. So I want to play like bishop c4 next and challenge the knight on d5. There's probably nothing wrong with just taking on a5 twice, but it feels like that's just such a bad bishop. Why would I let my opponent keep it or trade it off for a knight that's on d6? Okay, so queen d8 back to repeat moves. And now my bishop on d3 doesn't seem to be doing much, so I'm going to challenge this knight on d5. If I can take that knight, my bishop can get to f4. So this was my plan here. Yeah, of course he gets this bishop out of the way, but now I can take this. And here, do I start with bishop f4 or rook fe1? I think rook fe1 is a good place to start. Let's see, has it been fixed? No, it's not fixed yet. I'm trying to see the chat here and make sure it's all looking nice. But okay, so now I have to calculate in a position where I can't see. That's tough. So if I start with bishop f4, he can play g5, I guess, and that's kind of annoying. What am I doing with my b3 knight? This feels like a very bad piece. Bishop f4. Maybe bishop f4, g5, and just stick the bishop on e5 is fine. Let's do that. I don't want to lose this knight on d6. So yeah, g5 and bishop e5. If he takes it, I'm very happy taking with the pawn, and suddenly I have two very good passers. And now I think my next point of order is to either double rooks on the e-file or bring knight c1 to d3. And it's really hard to play strategic chess when you can't see the board. I think it's much easier to just play complicated, like direct attacking games. Maybe I'll have to do that for some of the session, because this is just crazy difficult. Okay, rook a7. I guess let's start by bringing this knight back to d3. Queen f5, sure. But knight d3 comes, and I don't think you can take anything. Because knight d4, I have bishop d4. Is there a hanging rook? I don't get it. Was he hoping that I couldn't see the move he made? This isn't Fog of War, it's Blindfold. Rook d8, but now I'm just a queen up, so let's go f4. Bolster things, g4, sure. So knight b7 and attack this one. Did I just blunder something? Was there a rook on a7 instead of a8? Oh, that's a queen, not a bishop. I thought his queen and bishop were different pieces. Yeah, somehow I thought he had taken his queen and taken on e1, not his bishop. How did that happen? It was queen d8, knights, and then bishop c8 somehow. Okay, I'm gonna resign here. I think what I have done is confused his queen and his bishop at some point. So let's see, how did that actually look up here? No, I don't know. I thought the rook was on a7? Huh. Okay, yeah, this is tough. I thought there was a queen and bishop there, but yeah, I thought his queen and bishop had somehow, okay. I guess it was a different piece going to different scores. All right, so let's try someone else. Let's play with Dangerous Ride. I like that name. And hopefully play maybe a bit of a more direct game. All right, so a4, he's trying to play the anti-blindfold opening of just nonsense. But I'm going to try to attack him. That's probably the easiest way to crash through guys like that. All right, so let's not hang the e5 pawn. d3, sure. So I feel like I should just be trying to give mate. It's just so hard to keep the position for that long. Okay, that. Yeah, you're just begging for it. f4 is coming. With both d3 and e3, it just feels like you have to go for this. Okay, so castle. Let's go bishop g4. And I'm playing very direct attacking chess this time. A, because my opponent has played a4 so early, which sort of is begging for it, but also I just think strategically it's the better thing to do in a game like this. Okay, so we're going to take this knight, and then the problem is fg3 is coming, and I think I'm just going to mate him. So queen f3, but now I can go like knight d4, for example. So I can start with this, and his queen doesn't have a great place to go. He must take it. I'll take back. But I missed c3. It's a good move. Okay, so to go, let's go back to c5. And then d4, sure, bishop d6. And now he's more or less okay, but I still think he's under quite some pressure because of, yeah. All right, so that's fine. Let's start with h6 to not only stop g5, but also I'm hoping for knight h7 at the right moment. So yeah, let's start with c6, make sure that this pawn is nice and safe. So he wants to bring the knight to f3. Let's go queen c7. And then hope to get the knight to f3. So here, rook e8. But yeah, this is exactly what I didn't want from a blindfold game. Some long, drawn-out maneuvering where I have to keep track of all the pieces. And I'm actually finding it much harder to do just by seeing the pieces on the board than when I actually physically have a blindfold on and have somebody calling out the moves. So here I think f3 is just screaming to be played. So I'm going to play it. And I'm going to try to attack him. If he plays knight takes f3, then he's sort of paralyzed. Like I can go queen f7, for example, and it's very hard for him to move. If he goes bishop f3, I should have knight d2. And then rook e8, knight f3, queen f3, and rook e8. To make sure I keep track of the position, not like last game. What are we going to do, dangerous ride? I think he has to take with the knight. I don't really see another move. And after knight takes f3, I'm just debating how I want to continue. I think I might play rook e7 to go rook f7 next. It feels like if I'm going to beat it, it's going to be on the f file, not the e file. Okay, so he does play knight takes f3. I think I'm going to go with rook e7 here. I don't want to let him, for example, go rook e2 and then knight d2, so getting the rook to f7 feels like the right place to start, to freeze the knight on f3 and cause more problems for it. Sure, so rook e2, rook f7, and now the knight is sort of frozen, but it's hard to break through. I mean, maybe I can just go rook f4, queen f7 or something, but all right, so he wants to move the knight next. Let's go rook f6 and hope for queen f7. Seems reasonable. I don't think he can play knight e5. I have bishop e5, queen e5, f3, and queen g3. And if he plays knight d2, I have a check on h2. So here I thought I could go queen f7. Because now I'm ready to take on f2. But we'll see if I'm missing something. This is just such a messy position, and it's so much easier to calculate when you can see the board. So knight e5, I guess I have to take it. He probably should have taken on d5 first, because now rook takes f2. Well, wait, hang on. Rook takes f2, he goes rook e takes f2, and then I lose. So what if I start with knight takes f2? I think this is working. Where does the queen go? I don't see a good square. Well, of course I don't see it. I'm not looking at the darn board, but if he had started with cd5, then here, if cd5 and cd5 had been included, maybe he could take on d5 in some way. Like queen takes d5, knight takes h3 check, and then it's still messy, but unless I'm missing something, I think I'm winning here. So queen e3. Oh, and I see. He wants to meet knight h3 with queen h3. Very clever. And if I go knight g4, rook f6, and I'm in trouble, yeah? So hang on, am I just busted here? If I go d4, he has queen takes f2, and I lose. If I go knight h3, queen h3, yeah, this sort of feels lost all of a sudden. Queen e3 is a nice move. Hang on. So knight takes g4, rook takes f6, and I'm just out of steam, right? Yeah, I'm going to lose that. So I'm going to try knight takes h3 and just hope for the best here, but it's not pretty. Let's go queen f4 and get ready to give as many checks as possible and be as annoying as possible. This is really hard, actually. Yeah, e6, and I think I'm sort of lost here. So let's go check. Where's the king going? I mean, it's not that easy for white, but it's rook e3, sure. So if I go rook f4, this doesn't seem so easy, because e7 I have rook e4. And then rook takes e7 will come in time. So I think I'm actually sort of fighting back a bit now. He has to play king f2. And then rook takes e7 comes. Yeah, so rook takes e7. Bishop e2, let's just take a pawn. My position doesn't seem so bad now. King h8. King f3. So rook e8, I guess, stopping the... But now wait, I have queen rook takes e3. Did I win? Did I win a game? Hang on, check. King g7. Yeah, I won a game. This one I think I was lost at some points, but I got there. I managed not to lose to like a4. Okay, this is really hard for what it's worth. All right, let's see who else wants to play. DZI Waldo, let's play with you. Hang on. So, okay. Yeah, I'm playing black here. All right, so let's stick with the trustable repertoire. C4, C6, G3, sure. Okay, but c5 is totally wrong for white in this position with the pawn on g3, so that should speak in my favor. Yeah, so we'll just play some exchange Slav where white's bishop, I think, will end up on g2, which just strikes me as a pretty poor square. All right, so bishop f5. I'm trying to get to the point, like, there we go. Okay, so I guess e6, I'm not wildly concerned about knight h4. But maybe now it's time to do something about it. So if I can just develop bishop e7 and castle, like his bishop on g2 is going to be an extremely bad piece, which I think will be heavily in black's favor. So yeah. So rook e1, I don't think I'm scared of e4 ever coming, so let's just continue along with development. Maybe I could have put the bishop on b4 there to be more active, but that's okay. So castle. And yeah, we have a pretty symmetrical looking position, but my bishop on e7 is much better than his bishop on g2. So that should be pretty nice for me. Rook c1, sure, let's keep it simple. Rook c8. And now what do you want? DZ Waldo. a3, sure. So if I go knight a5, that's what it's going to defend the c4 square. This is the thing, my bishop controls the c5 square and his does not control the c4 square. So knight d2 feels kind of passive, but I guess it makes sense. If I play queen b6 and harass this pawn on d4 a bit, as well as b2, sure, so b4, but now knight c4 is nice and active. And now my rooks are getting good, and the pawn is still hanging on d4. So e3, bring rooks d8. And at some point, that bishop on f4 could find itself close to trapped. But this is sort of what I mean, like this. Hang on, wait, does that lose to queen c6? Or is there some... I could just go knight e4, and I don't think he's going to stop a rook from landing on c2, but that feels very vegetarian. If I start with queen c6, at least his knight is really short on squares. If he plays b5, I'm happy to just duck my queen right back to b6. But then he has bishop f1, but bishop a3, and it's still good for me. Yeah, if he plays b5, like, I think he has to play b5 here, but this is sort of highlighting what I mean. The bishop on g2 did not manage to stop me from abusing the c4 square. And here I'm threatening the knight. If it moves back to like a2 or whatever, I have queen a4 or knight e4 or some other way to invade. And if he plays b5, queen b6, bishop f1, trapping my rook, I have bishop takes a3. Okay, so he starts with that move, but I think that now I can go queen a4 and harass the a3 pawn and get ready for rook c2 next. So he takes that, sure. And if I take this, he can try rook c1, but he will lose a3 and then lose b4 as well. So he actually has a very hard time holding this position together. I think he's basically lost. And at some point, that bishop on f4 can just get trapped by like knight e4, g5. Okay, so here I guess I should just take on a3. It seems easy enough. And d takes c4 will come. And then I have like all the fast pawns, and seems very bad for white. Bishop takes b4 is coming next. So there, and bishop takes b4, and now I think my c pawn should win the game pretty easily. Yeah, so I think if I take this knight and then go bishop d2, that knight is nearly trapped and the c pawn is about to promote. So let's take it and go bishop d2. And this knight's like almost out of squares and the c pawn is coming. He can try e4, but just bishop takes f4, bishop takes e4, and I have a million extra pawns. Yeah, so here my thought was bishop d3. And my c pawn is coming very, very fast. If bishop f3, I can even go g5, g4 maybe. So hang on, g5, bishop e5, g4, bishop f6, gf3, not so easy actually, because he has knight f4 and I can't go c3. So g5, g4 is not quite working, at least not as much as I would like it to. Actually, why not? Knight f4 there, and then bishop e4 at the end, and how does he stop this pawn? I really don't think he does. Okay, so let's go g5. And then he goes bishop e5, g4, bishop f6, gf3. And then after knight f4, I go bishop e4, and the c pawn is coming. And there's just not a thing he can do about it. So gf3. Okay, he takes that one instead, but now I'm definitely making a queen. Okay, so bishop, let's say a5, and then I don't see how he stops the queen. Okay, so D5, D2. Just a second. And then, yeah, check, and then the queen should win the game. So, sorry, I just had an important message there. So yeah, okay, I managed to get through this one. Okay, next up, who's next? Let's play with Marvelous Maggie. Seemed like a fun chap. All right, Marvelous Maggie, show me what you got. Okay, so let's play a Sicilian, because we're here to have fun, and Sicilians are fun. Really? Okay, fine. So, it's always so disappointing when somebody shies away from the open Sicilian. I mean, it's easy equality for black, but it somehow just feels unsatisfying. All right, so I think you're supposed to play like with e6, knight e7, and that's a pretty good coordination. Yeah, so knight e7, knight f3, sure, castle. So d6, and I think there's some line with bishop e3 here, if I'm not mistaken. Knight d4, and e5 is supposed to be like the tricky move, but I don't think it works very well. b1, I don't get it. So I'm just gonna, I guess the point is to play knight e2 without dropping the pawn on b2. So I'm going to play b5. And maybe I'm just begging for him to play e5, but I think bishop b7 should be okay. So there's knight e2 as expected, so we'll take it. And then go b4 when I've fixed the pawn on b2 as some kind of a weakness. This is still a pretty boring position, of course, but maybe. Okay, d4 I wasn't expecting. This feels a bit too ambitious to me, but let's see. So I'm going to start with queen a5. There could be some bishop a6 tricks, and a2 is hanging, and I guess it seems like an annoying move for white to face, so that seems like a good place to start. Maybe he can give an exchange with dc5, though. It's probably pretty reasonable for him because he will be able to play e5 later and shut down my bishop on g7. And that first game's going to give me nightmares. I don't know where I got lost, but I was completely winning and somehow stood up. Okay, so queen there. I guess I'll take on e5 and d4 and get some sort of Sicilian structure. Takes with the bishop. My thought was maybe I could play e5 here. Let's give it a try. It looks like fun. And if d e5, I'm actually sort of tempted to play knight c6. If fe5, I'm tempted to play knight c6. I don't really want to give myself a bad bishop, so I'm going to try knight c6. And this involves a pawn sacrifice, but probably is pretty reasonable for me. So, for example, if something like e d6, knight d4, queen c5 comes, maybe he can play e5 there. I don't know. My thought was here that I could make trouble for his bishops, or with the bishop. So let's start with queen c5. And if rook d1, I have bishop g4, but he goes c3, which is probably the best move. And here, let's say I go bishop a6 first and get ready for rook d8 next. And I think that I'm getting pretty good counterplay here. I don't know, maybe I should have included bc because now he can play rook d1. And but even this, let's say I go bc first. If queen c3, I have queen d6. But he goes bc, and now rook a d8 comes. And I'm going to take back one of my two lost pawns. And then I have like some really good bishops and very active pieces. So I kind of like my position despite the pawn less. But it's still very messy, and a messy position while blindfolded is not easy. Okay, queen b2, sure. So if I go rook fd8, I don't see what he's up to. Maybe he wants queen b4, but strikes me as not too scary. This bishop on g7 is very good. c1, sure. So hang on. If I go bishop d4, c d4, rook d4, if rook c5, rook d1, bishop f1, and bishop takes f1 looks like checkmate. So I think I can get away with taking this one. Take and then take, and if he takes my queen, I believe I'm mating him. So this gets my pawn back and leaves him with a very bad structure and a worse bishop. Okay, so you had to take that one, but now this endgame is absolutely miserable for white, or it's not even going to be an endgame. So can I go queen d1 here? Take, bishop f1, and he will have like queen b3 maybe? Or just h4 is fine. So no, I don't think I can get away with that. Let's stick this bishop on e2, where it will be annoying. Here's h3, sure, let's play h5 and make trouble for the king side. And it's now queen e5, and he might have to worry about h4 or rook d3. So he plays queen c3, that's a good move. But I'm going to take it and bring my rook to d2, where it should be annoying. So now bishop c4, and bishop f1 is my big trick, now that his rook is gone. Maybe I actually could have played bishop f1 before, so it doesn't change anything. But it takes, and now takes, and I'm definitely winning. Can I take the rook now? Okay, so yeah, okay. All right, good game, Marvelous Maggie. Fortunate to win at the end there, but okay. Who else am I playing with? Let Me Win. That's a funny name. This time I might actually let you win because I'm playing Blindfolded. All right, Let Me Win. Let's see what I can do. I probably shouldn't keep playing d4 when I'm playing Blindfolded, but it looks, but oh. Okay, so knight f6, sure. So let's play c4. Budapest. No, you can't play the Budapest. All right, so I'm going to play the trustable version, which is e4, and I think this is a very nice way for white. Just give the pawn back and take a big space advantage. So that move, why? I think the whole point of this line for black is that when I play f4 after knight takes e5, that I've weakened my dark squares a bit, and I just think this is a very bad way of punishing me. Because now when he goes knight takes e5 and I go f4 and take all the black squares, it's not like some bishop on c5 is there to hurt me. So I'm very happy to see this exchange. Let's go knight c3 and potentially get ready to castle long. And then start attacking. Sure, so castle long. And yeah, this exchange of bishops also helps me castle long faster, and the knight on b8 is very bad. So I think I should have pretty good attacking chances here. So knight f3, and if bishop g4, I might do something like take with the pawn on f3. But it's hard for black to find a decent move here. Maybe I should have started with f5, but I'm going to throw f5 and knight d5 and start to attack the king pretty soon, I think. All right, so let's see. What's the point of that? He wants knight a6 or something? That doesn't seem very scary. Let's go f5 and restrict his bishop. He's not really able to use the weakened d5 square. Maybe I could. Actually, it's occurring to me. I probably just had c5 there. It was very powerful. All right, so let's bring my bishop to d3. And this bishop can always tuck away on b1 if harassed. Okay, so that just feels like he's begging for g4. So let's throw it at him. All right, so this bishop can come back to b1. Now everything should be very safe, and the g pawn is coming, and yeah, so g5. I think I should mate here. So okay, so h5 is not a good sign for black. What if I go e5? He can't take it. I think black's totally losing control here. This attack seems way too powerful. I just have to be careful never to play a3 and get mated in one move. Maybe my next move will be knight e4 or something, then knight a2. Well, it's not going to be that easy to put this game away, but it does seem really bad for black. Okay, so can that queen actually go anywhere if I just go rook he1? I don't think it can. Let's go rook he1 and get the rooks to the center. d5, wow. Okay, so I guess I take this pawn, and this feels totally crushing, but it's maybe not that. Okay, knight a4. Why? What if I just go d6? Wait, is his pawn on c7 or c6? Now I'm starting to remember. No, his pawn's still going to be on c7, right? So does knight a4 actually threaten anything? I don't think it does. So let's start with f6. He probably is going to play g6. And then I think I go, okay, so he takes that, but now bc, and the knight is forced away. And then fg and queen d3 or something. Seems absolutely crushing. Maybe I let him play bishop g4. It's probably pretty dumb. It's okay. If bishop g4, I have cb4, bishop f3, and queen d3 taking his bishop. Okay, so knight a6, and now this should just be a couple moves away from mate. I guess if I start with e6, that looks like a pretty good way. e6, fe, de, and then if bishop e6, queen d3, and g6, rook e6. That seems good enough. So let's go e6. And I'm even threatening e7. So yeah, take and take. And yeah, if he plays bishop e6, I think queen d3 is the end. So queen c6. Don't understand. If I go queen d3, what's the defense? I don't see it. So let's go queen d3. And I'm sure that wasn't the only winning move, but is queen h7 mate, or have I forgotten the position again? Yeah, okay, good. All right, I was worried for a second there that I was going queen h7 through a pawn on g6 or something, but that's pretty sure. All right. Okay, so good game, let me win. Let's see who else wants to play. Tactic Tornado, that's a cool name. Let's play with you. I'm starting to get the hang of this. The first game I struggled, but now I think I'm mostly getting it. All right, so d4. Okay, 5 seconds to move. 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay. C4. Now let's keep G6. Okay, so this is gonna get some crazy complicated position with unable to see the board. So I'm probably just gonna go down hard here, but we'll see. So knight F3, bishop E2, and bishop E3 is what I get for the chessbook course. So let's play it. So I think knight C6 is totally wrong in this position because it allows white to coordinate bishop E3 and knight D2, which is not something he can normally do. And the point is here, black sends his normal kingside attack, but I'm not actually going to castle on the kingside. So he can go like F4 and G5 if he wants, but I'm just going to go C5, knight C4, and leave my king in the center, or potentially even castle long. But I have to make sure not to play too fast. If I play too fast, I will lose track of the position. Okay, so A6, let's go now C4. I think I'm already just winning, but I mean, he has to try like, I guess, knight F6, but I think white's sort of crushing already here. Okay, so rook F6, I guess that's a plan you see in the King's Indian now and then, but I don't think it really does anything here. In fact, can I even just take the fight to black and play H4? It's not the dumbest thing, but let's give it a try. We're playing Banter Blitz, so H4 comes. And yeah, I mean, obviously this would, if like I had already castled here and black were going like rook G6, I would be just mating myself, but because I haven't castled yet, this whole throw stuff on the king side plan, I think just totally doesn't work. So H6. So I don't think I necessarily want to take it right yet. Let's just start with rook C1 and get another piece to a good square. So B5 sort of forces me to take on B6, I guess. And now black's really stuck. But I sort of don't have that easy a move either. Let's just play queen b3. That feels like it can't be wrong and a good place to start. Maybe my next move will be like king d2 just to connect the rooks. My king is like totally safe in the center, much more so than the king side. That's sort of the attitude of this Gligorich line, that if black tries the normal King's Indian plan of just lock the center and throw the king side, it just completely fails because your king doesn't sit there and doesn't get mated. So, but this is going to be annoying to break through. It's going to take a long time, and I'm going to have to keep the position in my head for a long time. Okay, rook b8, that's sensible enough, overprotects the pawn. Let's start with king d2 and put the king on a nice safe square. And connect the rooks while I'm at it. At some point, I might play hg and then rook h5 and rook h1 or something. Or just rook c2, rook c1. Rook g6, so I think now's probably a good time to resolve this tension. So let's go rook c2 and bring the other rook to c1. Okay, so knight f6. I think a good rule of thumb is whenever this knight moves, it's sort of begging me to play b5 because you can no longer play knight c5. So let's play b5. This fixes the pawn on b6, and I'm ready for knight a4 next. And I'm doing this specifically at a moment when knight c5 is not coming. Yeah, so a5 and now knight a4. And this is bad news for black. He's going to have to bring the knight back to d7, which he certainly doesn't want to do. But yeah, this was a good timing for for this plan. Okay, knight d7. Now, do I have funky business? I don't think I do, because c8 is defended by the knight. So I go rook hc1 and continue to slowly build. He could play knight c5 here, but I don't think it will work very well. After knight takes c5. So, okay, so I thought this was bad news for black after knight takes c5. So BC, and now I can play this a few ways. I can be slow and strategic, but yeah, probably I should be. So here, what's his next move? He's about to throw g4 at me, right? If I take on d6, it's probably pretty good, but yeah, we're playing Banter Blitz. I'm taking d6. It's maybe this is dumb, but we're gonna give it a try. Active pieces. All right, so that, but he should have taken with the rook because now I'm gonna get d6 through. And once d6 comes, I'm going to take my material back and win very easily. But if he had taken with the rook and then after bishop takes c5, played bishop f8 or something like that, it might not have been so easy. Oh, but now I'm pinned, aren't I? That's the problem. Hang on, wait. The bishop takes e7 first, and then queen takes e7, d6 check, queen f7, rook takes c8 check. I'm definitely winning. So I take this knight. If I start with d6, I'm going to be pinned on the d file. But take this first, and then if he takes back, d6 check, and I think I'm good to go. All right, queen e6, so bishop c4 should work. So let's play it. Rook c8 also worked, but this is easy enough. Rook b6. So if I take this queen, bishop e6, and now he wants to take my d6 pawn, yeah? It's a little annoying. So I guess, wait, but I can play d7 here. Now then he has rook d6 check. So I guess maybe I shouldn't have even taken the queen. I can go queen d3 though, and then what do you do? I don't think there's a move. I'm ready with d7, I'm ready with rook c6, and this game is finished. Yeah, so now d7, and I go make another queen. D8 queen. Take this one too. F8, let's go rook c6 and start trading off his defenders. All right, I think, yeah, okay. So good game, tactic tornado. I think that this line is not very good for black with knight c6, and he has better options. Okay, so who else wants to play? Let's play with, hang on, where is this? It's hard to scroll through the challenges without the board moving. Let's play with Monty24. I don't think I've played with you before. Okay, Monty24. Let's have a good one. All right, so let's play Sicilian. And this guy plays real chess. Good on you. So take. And I'm going to play the Rouser, which I've been playing in the Champions Tour, and for a while now with quite a bit of success, including this famous or infamous last round game with Nakamura. Okay, so all this is pretty normal Rouser. Is he going to play f4 or f3? He goes for f4, so this new move is bishop e7, and then there's some line knight f3, b5 is interesting. But he doesn't want it. He goes king b1, so I'm just going to pretend nothing happened and play b5. So I guess I have to take this way. And maybe I'm just playing, maybe I just don't understand a thing about the Rouser, but this doesn't feel so bad for black. Sometimes the bishop on e7 is misplaced in this structure and would rather be on f8 so that it could reach h6 under the right circumstances, but I think this one should be okay for me. He probably should play f5. That would be the way to take advantage of it, because like if he were to play f5 there and I couldn't respond with knight takes d4 and then bishop h6 check, bishop f4, bishop e5, that's, I guess, sort of speaks in his favor. So here let's go a5 or b4 first and then a5 to gain further space. f5 and now e5, and I think these structures are supposed to be okay for black. It just depends if white's knight can get to the d5 square, and here I think it will have a hard time. But yeah, now I'm really thinking my bishop would just be better on f8 so that I could always be ready with bishop h6. Okay, that I was not expecting. So I'm going to go queen b6. I'm not remotely concerned about him taking on b4, but I think he'd be a bit foolish to open the position like that. Yeah, c3 feels really off to me. Okay, so king a1, sure. I guess it's not that easy to play. So I'm going to play h5, and then gaining space on the king side. And sometimes white wants to play knight g3 to h5. Okay, so that's his plan. He wants to bring this bishop to b3 that way. But I'm still not convinced here. So let's say I start with rook b8 and look for tactical trickery. I think he will regret opening the position like this. But yeah, I think my bishop on e7 is badly misplaced. I guess against king b1, maybe I shouldn't play b5. Here, my bishop would be better on f8. I could also, it would also allow me to later play king e7. So yeah, he plays rook b1. I suppose that's sensible enough, even if a bit passive. So I'm going to actually just duck my bishop back to f8 and admit that I've misplayed it. So this way my king can sit on e7 very nicely. But I shouldn't play king e7 yet, because then I'm going to die. So let's start with let's start with h4 and gain some more kingside space and stop knight g3 from ever coming. So h3, sure. But now I don't want to do this. Maybe I can start with rook g8 and ask him how he wants to defend this pawn. It's not that easy. His knight on e2 is really bad. Okay, so rook g1, and now I can get away with king e7 without getting mated, so let's do that. Yeah, it's sort of hard for either side to really do that much here. Rook hd1, sure. So threatens mate. If I start with bishop a8, seems decent enough. Seems to stop it pretty effectively. And it just feels like a difficult position for white. But my bishop on f8 still is not very good. It needs to get to h6 somehow. Okay, so queen d3. Why? Not sure I understand the point of this move. Let's get the bishop to its best score. And if this bishop lands on e3, like white's going to lose his face. So, okay, so he goes g4. I guess I should take that, otherwise my rook becomes very bad. Okay, so he takes back, and now it feels like there should be some kind of tactical shot. So if bc3, he goes queen c3, rook g3, knight g3, bishop e3, and how does he stop bishop d4? I guess knight e2, but it seems incredibly difficult for white. That's kind of, but I don't know. Let's just take on g3 first. I think is probably easier. So what does he take with? If he takes with the queen, I think I can go bishop e3 and cut off his queen from the defense. And I'm ready for bc3 next. So c4. It's an annoying move. Okay, so queen c5. Let's just start attacking stuff. If he ever plays rook d3, I can always play bishop e4. I think is very nice. So b3, let's go a4 and open this up a bit. So here I thought I could take on e4. Let's see. So takes. And then I will take on c2 next. And I think this is bad news for white. All right, so now we trade queens and get, I think, an absolutely winning endgame. White has way too many hanging pawns. Okay, so let's start with, like, actually, is my bishop in some danger? If I play a3, no, let's go a3 and cut his king off. This seems very nice. h4, sure. So I guess rook g8 is fine. And then king f8. And I think I have the pawn pretty well under control, so I'm not worried about it. Okay, can I play bishop takes f5 here? I don't see why not. Yeah, let's take f5. I'm always a bit nervous about calculating lines when I can't see the board, but I think this works. So yeah, rook f3 still does not threaten anything. So if I play bishop e4, like this rook is going where? e3 back, sure. And then I can go like, let's go to c2 is probably the safest. And then I can bring the rook down. Okay, and then bishop d3 is good enough. He has to play h7, and then I will take it. And the bishop's coming back to d3. But I have to be careful not to stalemate him here, actually. Okay, good game, Monty. Almost stressful, but I managed to get through it. Who else is playing? Real Freelos. Let's play with you. Maybe I have time for 2 or 3 more games. Okay, so let's stick with the chessable repertoire, d4. Man, yeah, after that first game where I was sort of getting used to it, I think I've been playing reasonably okay. All right, so knight f3. So e3. And then knight c3. We're in the semi-Slav, and here I gave this move bishop e2 in the chessable course, which I think is kind of clever. And one that is annoying for black to mate. Yeah, so the big point of bishop e2 is that after dc4, because the bishop is not on d3, it is not hanging, I don't need to play bishop takes c4 and allow b5, as I can instead play a4 here. So, yeah. And this, I think, should give me a nice edge, because the whole point for black is to take on c4 once my bishop moves and then go b5, bishop b7 really quickly, but this I don't think works as well for him. So let's say now I take this pawn, and I get castled next. And I'm actually pretty tempted to just throw e4 at him pretty soon if he doesn't. So that one, can I go knight a2? How does he save this bishop? This bishop is actually very awkward now. Knight b6, sure. Let's duck our bishop back to d3. And it's very annoying for him to save his bishop. I mean, and by annoying, maybe impossible. So knight d5, but then can I not play e4 and take all the space and keep attacking him? Yeah, let's go e4. And this tension with the bishop on b4 is very much not in black's favor. Knight c7, sure. So bishop g5, and now e5 is a colossal threat. So he has to severely compromise his king side. If g5, I don't think I'm going to take it, but I'd be tempted. But just bishop g3 is quite sufficient. So bishop g3. And it's very hard for black to even make a move here. All right, so a5, I guess, makes sense. Now he's starting to do something in the center. So let's take this bishop while at this moment. So he takes with the c-pawn, and then I guess let's start by developing a new piece with rook c1, ask this knight where it wants to go. So this should be just crushing pretty quickly. I'm going to start with bishop b1 so that I can play queen d3 next, and then e5 is going to hurt. Also, bishop b1 makes it possible to play something like knight e5 without hanging the d4 pawn. So, and I like that I got my rook out of the way before tucking the bishop like that. Okay, so that feels like it's asking for a pin on e5. Yeah, I don't see how he's going to break this pin anytime soon. So yeah, now let's start opening the king a bit with h4. And I think this attack is crushing through pretty soon. If g4, knight h2, yeah, so that is not going to save it. So I'm going to take this one, and then queen d2 comes, and then this is collapse. The position will fall apart for black. So yeah, this game went well. I think black got into very big trouble. This line is very dangerous for him. It looks so innocent to play bishop e2, but if black, I think it's a good try to fight for an advantage objectively, but also if black just misplays it just a little bit like this. I mean, it didn't even feel like black did anything that dumb. Like dc4 after the bishop moves is pretty typical for any kind of queen's gambit, but here it just turned out to be extremely painful for him. Okay, so check. And now bishop f6, and we're definitely giving mate soon. So keep the pieces coming with knight e5. And this was a nice attacking game. I don't get to attack very often, but this one worked. Okay, so good game, real fearless. I think maybe we have time for a couple more. Let's see. Why must I lose to this Bogues? I was asking myself the same question when this Bogues played queen a4 against me and beat me in 15 moves. That was pretty frustrating. All right, let's play c4, c6. Maybe this guy will play queen a4 against me as well. Okay, so chessable time. Play the chessable repertoire. So I'm going to play the semi-Slav as well. We get the same position as we got a second ago, but he plays bishop d3, and now taking c4 makes a lot more sense because he must take back directly. So let's go b5 and bishop d6. This is all still following the repertoire. Castle, castle. So a3 here. I think that's normal enough. Let's go bishop b7. Yeah, so e4 comes. I guess I must play e5. I'm not sure about e4 so soon. It makes some sense in this position, I guess, but it feels like you probably should have included queen c2 first. So now what happens? Let's play b6 and keep everything nice and safe. Queen e2 is a weird square for the queen. It feels misplaced there. Let's start with rook e8 and get nice control over the e file, where I'm hopeful to make some trouble for him. Rook d1, sure. So now I have to pay some attention to these threats. So I can go queen c7. And now it's actually, he has to be a little bit careful not to allow e d4 and bishop h2. So he plays queen c2 here. But now I should be able to take on d4, because if he takes with the knight, I have bishop h2. And if he takes with the rook, I will have c5, and my pieces are springing to life very fast. In fact, if he takes with a knight, I might even have c5 as well, because if knight db5, ab5, knight b5, I have bishop h2 there too. So here I think I'm in time to get c5. And in general, in these Morans, if black ever gets e6, d4 followed by c5 under reasonable circumstances, he's usually like close to winning. And I think this is already the case. I think white's almost lost already. Okay, so knight e2 is not the move of a man who likes his position. So let's go c5 and bishop g3, but this should just fail. I guess I can take on e4, but I sort of want to get c4 through first if possible. Let's start with rook a c8 and put some force behind the c4 break. So take, sure. There's no c4 is coming, so let's do it. And then d3 next, and I think white is very much finished. Knight f5 doesn't do anything. I can just put the queen anywhere, and I should be fine. Maybe f8 is the safest, just tuck it away. So yeah, there's d3. And these pawns are pretty convincing. And e4 is going to get taken next. So let's take e4. And then queen f6 seems nice and safe. Now white is busted. All right, so I have to be a little bit careful here. Let's start with this knight to c5. And white can barely move. And there's two pawns up and completely crushing. Yeah, so g4. I guess that makes some sense. Let's start with knight e6 and getting this queen out of my face. And she doesn't have a great place to go either. And once the queen leaves, I will be ready to play maybe even g6. So yeah, if I play g6 here, if queen h6, gf5, my queen is defended. If knight h6, king g7, I'm just going to crush him. So let's go g6. And I don't think knight h6 is a big deal. If, yeah, after king g7, the knight is just trapped and knight f4 is coming and it's just over. So let's see, how do I want to finish this off? If knight f4, knight f5 is a little annoying, but if I go knight 6, g5, then the f2 pawn is hit next as well. This is mate. So queen takes f2 feels like checkmate to me. Unless his rook is still on f1, but I'm pretty sure it's on d1. And now knight g3 and queen g2 mate. Okay, good game. Why must I lose to this Bogues? Let's see, anybody with like a really high rating want to challenge me? Oh, Jup, always there. Let's play with Jup. I think I play with you every time, so you're pretty good. This guy might beat me if I'm blindfolded. Okay, Jup, show me what you got. All right, so let's play a Sicilian because they're so much fun, especially when you can't see the board. So bishop d7, I think, is supposed to be a pretty sensible move here. Castle is not supposed to be great. I thought you're supposed to start with c4. Okay, so knight c6, and then how does this go? It's like e6, and then d4, take, d5, or something. I think black's supposed to be okay. It's the general gist here. And then there's some goofy lines, if I recall. But I don't know a thing anymore. Knight d2 already? So takes, bishop takes. And then I think I go bishop e7 and castle. And then there's some weird thing where like they put the rook on d3 or something, I think. So bishop g5, but let's go rook f c8. Yeah, all the guys in chat wondering, I mean, Blindfold is actually really easy. The hard part is playing like Blindfold Blitz. Okay, so we'll just get some attack versus attack scenario. I want to wait for him to play h5 before I play h6. And so I'm going to gain space on the queen side with a5 and get ready for a4 and knight a5. I don't know. Maybe I should be playing rook c7, rook c8 instead, but this seems pretty reasonable. So g3, sure. Let's keep pushing. I might even just push my pawn all the way to a3 and then put the knight on b4. That doesn't seem stupid either. Yeah, let's actually do that. I'm going to push this pawn all the way to a3. He probably should play b3 to keep the queen side closed, but then I will go knight b4 next, and that should be pretty reasonable. This will fix this a2 pawn as a weakness forever. I mean, these sort of modern engines love just throwing like h4, h5, h6, a4, a5, a3 all the time. All right, so take this, rook b1. I guess that makes sense, but I feel like if the queen side opens like this, it should favor black. So say I take on b2, and then I will start with rook a4 to harass the d4 pawn a bit, and then get ready for knight a5 without blocking my rook. And I think my queenside play is probably better than his kingside play. Unless he has knight g5 here, and then h6, queen c2. But after knight g5, perhaps I can play rook takes d4. So yeah, I kind of like this move. All right, queen d2. My thought was here I could play knight a5. I don't see why not, so I'm going to do it. And I think that black's pieces are just better equipped to fight for the queen side than white's are, so I'm happy to see it open. That said, it's still like, they can still simplify very quickly. So it's not like he's in huge trouble or anything. Okay, so queen d3, I definitely don't want to let him play knight g5, so we have to go h6. And if queen b5, I have rook a3. Okay, so rook b1, sure. If I start with rook a3, Where does this queen go? Maybe b5? Don't think rook takes f3 will work there. It's too much. Actually, wait, his pawn's on g3. So if I go rook a3, his queen's actually in some trouble. Yeah, his pawn's on g3, I'm pretty sure, not g2. So queen e2, sure, I guess that makes sense, but it is a little annoying to break through here. But actually, I'm thinking, shoot, is this king on g1 or g2? That's actually very relevant. If I start with rook c3 like I want, my thought was if he moves like knight d2, maybe I can consider sacrificing on g3, but it, oh no, is this king on g1 or g2? That's, forget. I think it's g1, but I really think that king is on g1. If I take twice on g3 and he takes 2 rooks for 2 pawns, that would suck, but hang on. So does it even work if it's on g1? Rook g3, fg, rook g3, queen h4. I don't even know if it works. I don't think it does. King f2, queen h4, knight f, or maybe it does. It's, oh man. Yeah, I don't think it works. Or well, all right. If his king's on g2, I'm about to go lose 2 rooks. Let's see how this works. Don't tell me, guys. I'm pretty sure it's on g1. I know he played g3, but I was thinking he was playing king g2 next. Okay. If he hasn't taken my rook yet, it's on g1. So, yay. And this should be interesting. I'm not sure if he's holding this together or not. I think he should try king f2, queen h4, knight f3. That seems like the best defensive try. But we'll see. It's still very unclear after that. Okay, so king f1 I think is a mistake. Now the attack is much stronger. And his rooks are just totally misplaced for the defense. And then knight can come to c4 in some cases. So queen f2, and now if I give queen h4 check, or queen h3 check, what gives? Where does this king go? I don't see a great place. King e1, sure. And now after rook g2, he's going to go queen f3, I imagine. And then my thought was queen f1. Wow, that's not what I was expecting. Okay, so queen e3 check should take his queen. Is that good enough? Probably. Let's just go take his queen. Okay, so I'm going to take the queen and then play strategically, but I'm taking his queen, I'm taking d4, I'm taking all of his stuff, so this should win routinely. Knight c4 comes. Takes. There's now check. And check. And can I play c2 in time? Not really. Let's just go make a queen. Okay, so queen d2, I guess, to attack this rook. Check h7, then h4. But this is annoying. But okay, h3. And h2 is fast enough, I think. I take it. And then make, oh, is this king on b1? Ah, shoot, I blindfolded myself. I thought the king was on a2. All right, this gentleman has offered me a draw. I am going to decline this draw and resign because you don't do that. All right, yeah, that's a frustrating one. I think I was just winning there. Somehow I thought the king was on a1. But of course I'm winning at the end. Oh well, yeah, so good games, everybody. This was fun. But I didn't realize the king was on a1 at the end. Stupid old me. Yes, so I think that'll do it for today. I lost the first game, I lost the last game, so what do they say? The beginning, middle, and end all sucks? Nah, it's just the beginning and end are tough. But yeah, good games, everybody, and I will see you